Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session of AAC in the Cloud. We're excited to have you here with us. Today's session will be presented by Ruth Williams and Gemma Wilkinson, and their topic is Discover Affordable Alternative Alphabet Charts. So they have some great information to share with you. We will turn things over to them.
Hello, thank you very much, Melissa, and thank you to you all for tuning into our presentation, which is all about paper-based alphabet charts. Oops, how do I move on to the next slide? Oh, there we go. That's a good start, isn't it? Make sure I can go through the slides.
Technology.
So, my name is Gemma. Hello, everyone. I am a speech and language therapist working as an AAC consultant here at ACE Centre, which is in the UK. I have a background working with adults with acquired communication difficulties. I started working out as a speech and language therapy assistant, and this is when I first became involved in a local AAC service. I now work with both children and adults and provide an AAC assessment service. There's some little pictures to share with you. So a little bit about me. I live near Oxford, which is in the south of England, with my husband, and you can see a picture of us there on our wedding day, which was last July. So we're coming up to our first year anniversary. And I don't know if you can see a picture of my two little cats. Well, one's a bit bigger than the other, the big black one there and a little tabby. So when I'm not working, I enjoy spending time gardening, going on trips in our self-converted camper van and going for walks. So that's me.
Hi, I'm Ruth Williams. I'm also a speech and language therapist, but I have a very different background to Gemma, as I used to work in paediatrics and had a lot of fun doing that. But now I've come to ACE Centre in the UK and I am classified as an AAC consultant. And I used to work as a teaching assistant as well. So I've got a lot of background with children, but this job I'm able to work with children and adults. In the picture there, some of you might recognise that skyline, and it'll give you a hint as to my favourite music, which is country music, and that was Nashville actually this time last year, which is really good fun. And a little bit about ACE Centre. We're across the pond in the UK, and we've got an office in the north of England in Manchester and an office in the south of England in Oxford, and that's a picture from our Oxford office where Gemma and myself are right now. So yeah, we work we're a charity, but we have a NHS commission, which means that we can work with children and adults to provide technology, so high-tech communication aids for the top 10% of people with communication difficulties. But today we're focusing on paper-based because that's always needed.
Lovely, thank you, Ruth. Okay, so a quick overview of what we're going to cover in our session today. We want to talk to you about paper-based communication solutions, and particularly about using the alphabet. And we're going to show you how you can adapt an alphabet system to suit a range of individuals, including those with different physical access needs, and how you can personalise alphabet charts to make them optimal for communication for that individual. We're also going to share links with you, so there'll be lots of freebies, hopefully, that you can get out of today. So all the resources that we show you are free of charge, and we will include the links to those. So we will make sure that we share our presentation slides afterwards, so that you can go ahead and print these out and adapt them to suit the individual that you're thinking of using it with. So why have we chosen to do our presentation on paper-based resources when we're so fortunate that we can work with electronic AAC And what we find is that paper-based solutions offer something that the electronic systems just can't always provide. And so we often find ourselves in an assessment also pulling out of our bags different paper-based resources and encouraging people to use these alongside the technology as well. So they can be used on their own, and some people just prefer using a paper-based solution, but they can be a really good backup for those situations when the device just isn't available at that moment in time, or it's doing the typical thing of an update, or it's frozen, the battery has run out of juice, or it might be the middle of the night, say, you just don't want to fire up the device. It's really quick and easy to grab a paper-based chart just for those quick conversations. Another factor where you might want to use paper-based is when you're outdoors. Actually, here in the UK, it's been really, really sunny. Usually it's raining, and in both of those situations, electronic devices, you just don't want to be taking them outside. You either can't see the screen because of the glare, or it's thunder and lightning, and you certainly don't want to be getting the device wet. There's a picture of a chap using a paper-based chart in the pool there as well. So lots of places where you just wouldn't want to take your communication device. Another thing to mention is that paper-based charts might be used for different reasons, not just for somebody that's non-verbal, but someone with functional speech might also choose to use a paper-based chart in different situations. So what somebody might use is maybe an alphabet chart with someone that's less familiar to them and can't quite understand their speech as well as a familiar communication partner. So you might want to use a chart just to cue in an initial letter or a keyword, just to clarify the context of your spoken message as well. So lots of different reasons why you might choose to use paper over electronic. Something that we find when talking to people as well is that people can prefer that face-to-face human interaction of using a paper-based resource over an electronic one. So when you're using an electronic device, you might have to have it positioned right directly in front of your face, and it just interrupts the conversation slightly. Another positive for paper-based is human prediction. So human partners tend to be much more forgiving when you make a mistake as compared to your computer, and human prediction is just great with a familiar communication partner because they know the context of your message, they know the history about you, and that can speed things up as well.
Brilliant. So I suppose today we're looking at alphabet charts. So we're presuming that the people that you're thinking about using these charts with have already acquired those literacy skills and those spelling skills, but that's not necessarily always the case. But a lot of these charts could be used to teach literacy or to be used alongside another tool for learning literacy. If you are literate and have access to an alphabet, you can say anything you want to anybody in any situation. And it just gives you that ability to just express yourself fully, rather than having to use symbols or to use pre-stored phrases on a chart. Just gives you that flexibility. So we just wanted to touch upon the point of building on literacy and encouraging it at whatever age. So whether somebody's a child at 3 years old or whether they're an adult at 26 years old, there's plenty of research out there that suggests we should really be encouraging the development of literacy at any age. I'm sure you've all used literacy today to come and use Zoom. You've had to log in and read instructions and to read those emails, or you might not be driving at the moment, but looking at road signs as to know where to go. and reading menus when you go to a restaurant. You're using literacy in all those situations. So it's a tool that we are expected to learn in everyday situations throughout life. So it's really, really important that we encourage it with all of our clients. Okay, so we're just looking at designing the chart, and there's lots of different considerations for this. The first one is colour, and that can really make a huge difference. If someone's got potentially difficulties with their vision, maybe using a yellow background and a black letter can just make all the difference and make those letters pop out. Also, colour preferences. My favourite colour is yellow. But I've got friends that absolutely hate the colour yellow. I mean, not many people like the colour of our wall in the background. You might not want that on your chart. So it's just considering what makes it ideal for the person you're working with. Leading on from that, personalisations, having Bob the Builder images in the background of an alphabet chart, or maybe some flowers and roses at the side of it, just an image of them, might make it just that more personalised and give somebody the feeling that it's theirs and give them ownership over it and encourage them to use it. Wanted to just touch upon the point of the uppercase and lowercase. I think it's slightly different in the US, but in England, the whole of the UK actually, we learn lowercase when we're at school. I believe, I could be wrong, but in America you learn uppercase at school. So it's just considerations of what the individual might be familiar with and what they like to use. Font style and font size are really important. So you don't want your letters too small that somebody can't see them, but you also don't want them too large that they take up a whole square and make it look maybe a bit childish, maybe for an older person. They wouldn't want that. Swirly fonts can be really distracting and hard to see the letters, both for the communication partner and for the communicator. So it's just all these different considerations. Punctuation is so important because it can really change the meaning, especially using paper-based, because you're not getting the nuances of just having that natural interaction and natural voice. So having the ability to have a question mark, an exclamation mark, a full stop, a comma, can make all the difference. So if I said the phrase, well, just the word, really, I might just put a full stop after that. But if I said, really, it's a question mark, and it really just changes the tone of it by putting a question mark after it, or really, that'd be an exclamation mark. It just really changes that interaction and can make it really more personalised. Adding numbers, some people like that, some people don't. You use numbers within everyday language all the time, so can I have 2 glasses of wine and 1 cup of coffee? Or you can also use them to quicken your speech. So instead of typing out FOR for 4, so 3 letters, and then maybe a space actually, so that might be 4 presses, you could just point to the number 4, and that'd be a lot quicker and easier. And we've just touched upon there as well about spacing. So the space that you've got in between the cells, so whether you're having a centimetre or a couple of millimetres, just thinking about that distancing between the cells can make all the difference, both for visual and for accessing it, which Gemma will talk about in a moment.
Did you want to just mention that link that we've got on there, which is to one of our iBooks that ACE Centre have developed? That's free, and you can find out more information about designing an alphabet chart there.
Brilliant. So just going through some of the layouts of how we could format our alphabet chart, and QWERTY is probably the most known one and very familiar to many of us using computers, especially with COVID-19 as it is. We're all using computers all the time. So this was set up originally for direct touch through a typewriter, as you can see, but it wasn't optimized for speed as such. It was optimized for the letters to be placed far apart that you would use in quick succession to prevent the typist making errors when they're pressing the keys. So for somebody using their fingers, it might take longer to use a QWERTY keyboard. It's just considerations for that method and why you would or wouldn't use it. ABC, most of us learn our alphabet when we're at school, and we know our A to Z, or A to Z, I should say, for you guys in America. These layouts can be really useful for direct access, but also for other access methods. They can require a lot of movement. If you look at that central one, you'd have to move a lot to get to all the letters around the screen. So it could be used for a lot of people. We have quite a few clients, especially elderly people, who maybe aren't familiar with a QWERTY and maybe don't want to move to something that looks completely new, like the next slide I'll show you, frequency. So we've got quite a few people that choose ABC. So as I just mentioned, frequency layouts, it is what it says on the tin. Basically, the letters that are most commonly used within the English language are clustered together, dependent on the access method. Now, the one with the blue background, that is set up for somebody using scanning. So the letters in the top left corner are the easiest to get to. So the space is the easiest, then the E, then the T. With the second one, which is yellow, the E, the N, the T, the A, they're all in the central point. So this is set up for somebody using a joystick, actually. So you're expecting them to start in that central position in the middle and then move out. So it's a circular movement, and you can see that Z, K, Q and X are the hardest to get to on both of those charts for those individuals. So that's why they're at the edge. Words and phrases can make it so much quicker for somebody to get their message across, and there's lots of different ways of putting those words and phrases together. We talk a lot in chunks of language, so I often say the same thing when I meet people. Hey, how are you? Or talk about the weather, like Gemma was talking about earlier. We get lots of rain, but we've got lovely sunshine at the moment. So having those phrases stored up or on the chart so that somebody can frequently go to those messages is really important, and making sure that they're personalised for them, because I will say very different things and different phrases to Gemma, and Gemma will say very different phrases to all of you. So making sure it's personalised again. Some people choose to have core words. You can see some of those charts. They've got alphabets, but they've got core words on there. And some have just got highly used words by the individual, so a personalised word chart underneath the spelling chart, which can make it a lot quicker. Another thing is abbreviation expansion. I'm sure you've all used text talk, and that's pretty much what it is. So BRB means be right back. It's really important to have, once again, personalised messages, but making sure they're on a chart. So we've got some examples on the bottom image there. So IP means I'm in pain. TA, tell me about. And HRU, how are you? Having those written on the wall, well, on a piece of paper on the wall, so that any carer coming in and out of the home of that individual can see what those mean, rather than having to guess, what does IP mean? It's really, really useful and can make communication so much quicker than having to spell everything out all the time. So these are just some free examples of phrase books, leading on from the previous slide. So on our website, we've got a pragmatically arranged phrase book, and it follows kind of sentence starters, and you can see the first page on the light blue, and you go from that top page, so quick chat, and if you press quick chat, somebody would turn the page to the next one, and then you've got a list of different phrases down there which would be personalised to you. And there's a communication flip book that Boston Children's Hospital have created. And it's really, really lovely with some really useful tools, not just an alphabet in there, but some really useful visuals of pain scales and yes and no's and body parts. And I think that that's just a really useful website as well, just to go to look at alternative ways of putting communication books together or phrase books together, which is really important. Okay. So one thing that can be forgotten is we've got the chart, but how do we get the individual to say that they've got a message? So it's just important to have an agreed way that they will say their message. I'm sure you're all aware of Pod. They suggest having the wristbands and putting your hand up to say, I have a message. Whatever method works for you. I've got some clients that have a sheet on the wall that says, get my communication chart, and they just stare at that until it appears, or some people have them on their wheelchair. Whatever works for that individual. Maybe it's 5 eye blinks and somebody goes and gets it. It's just whatever works, but just making sure that somebody within whatever situation they're in can get their communication chart. On all of these charts, please consider adding in, I've made a mistake, that they need a space, that they need to start again, or have another method that they might display that. So maybe it might be they put their arm across if they're able to do that, or they shake their head profusely if they've made a mistake. Just getting some agreed method of how they do that is really important. And once again, all these tactics need to be written into either a document, communication passport, or written somewhere where all the carers can get hold of it so that everybody's on the same page. When the individual is writing their message, it is so handy to have either a notepad, a whiteboard, or even the back of the chart with a dry white pen to write down the message as they're saying it, because with the best will in the world, you do forget what people are spelling out. So it's a prompt for you, but also for them, because if you're anything like me, even when sometimes I'm writing my shopping list, I forget halfway through what I'm writing about. So people to have those lists and that writing there is really important. Prediction, Gemma did mention earlier, and it is really good and great when you're with a communication partner, but just agree with the individual whether you're allowed to predict, or maybe how many times you predict, because it can be seen as rude for some people, for people to interject, but other people absolutely love it, and it can make communication so much quicker. But you might say you have a maximum of 3 things that you predict before you move on to looking at the next letter. It's just getting all those communication strategies agreed with the individual so that they're comfortable with their communication method.
Good point. Okay. So the most obvious way to use a chart is with your hands and by pointing, but there are a few other things that you can do to help that along the way. So first of all, I'm going to talk to you about direct access. Now, by the time that we tend to meet individuals, they may have been using, so say they may have a progressive condition, and they may have been using direct access, either with a text-to-speech app or with a paper-based alphabet chart, but they're starting to find that a bit difficult. It might be really tiring having to move their hands along the alphabet, or they may find that just that physical pointing, that fine motor movement is becoming more difficult, and they can't isolate a finger. So this is just to tell you that there are a few ways that you can adapt systems to allow for clearer access, and you can continue to use the chart that you were previously using. So even things such as tilting the paper-based chart at a 45-degree angle, popping it on a wedge, can also just help you see it a bit better, and to rest your hand on the desk and access. We've got some photos there of some styluses. So you can see there's like a red golf ball shaped one, a T-bar stylus and a head pointer version. So all these are useful if you've got some good gross motor movement, but fine motor movement is difficult, and you can obviously with that point to quite a small target area, so you can carry on being quite precise, and you can have all your word lists and your phrases maybe all on one page along with your alphabet board. Another thing which is worth thinking about is a laser pointer. So there's a little picture of that there. So somebody might attach a laser to their glasses and be able to move their heads. They may have no movement of their arms at all, but they can still quite accurately directly access their alphabet chart just as they always did. So that's worth a try as well. You could always pop it up on the wall and they can access it from bed, for example. Another thing, I can't remember if I've mentioned this already, is that a paper-based system can be much more forgiving than an electronic system. So the communication partner can interpret the shapes of letters and words that you're spelling. So you can also use, even if you can't isolate a finger, you could use a fist to directly access and spell out your words that way. So I've talked about laser pen. Something else I haven't mentioned, and I've got a couple of pictures of those there, is a key guard. And that's just a frame, an overlay that will sit over an alphabet or your original communication chart. And it's like a grid, and you can run your hand over it and then dab your finger into the letter that you want to select. So you could make that yourself out of maybe some laminated cardboard or foam. But if you want something a bit more robust and waterproof, then there's a couple of solutions that you can purchase. We've got an image there of the French A, which is the blue one, and Candle do a version there, which is the yellow and black version. And we've got links to where you can purchase those at the end of the presentation. Okay, I'm going to attempt to show you a video now. This is of a young lady called Angelie, and she is going to show us how she uses her communication chart. She uses direct access and she uses her alphabet chart all the time to talk to everybody.
C, E. You've been doing some signs. Oh, that's cool. P, F, P, H, A, N, T. You've been saying about elephants. I don't know whether you know. Never remember which one has the biggest ears. Is it African or Indian? Indian. No. You see, I always forget that.
So did you agree with Angelie that Indian elephants have the bigger ears? Oh, that's a tricky question, we're not too sure. But it's a really good example of how you can just use an initial letter rather than typing out the whole word to engage in a conversation, really natural. And here we've included a few links, as we promised we would, to some free alphabet charts that you can download. These ones that we've listed here are all optimised for direct access. So take a look at those.
Brilliant. So going on to eye pointing, there are 3 main methods of eye pointing that we find useful for alphabet charts, which is encoding, iLink, and vocal becker, which I will go into all of those in a bit more depth in a moment. One thing we did want to point out was bigger isn't always better. So some people don't want an A3 chart in their face. They would rather have a much smaller chart. We've got some individuals that use something about the size of half a A4. So about the size of a phone. I was just thinking you guys actually use different, even paper size to us, so that wouldn't work. So about the size of a phone is about the right size for some individuals, and some people don't even need these charts. Once they've established the system with their communication partner and know where all the letters are, they actually don't even need to use the physical system. They can do it other ways. Matte laminate, when you're creating any of these systems, is really, really useful because it stops the reflection of the light. And when you're using your eyes, you don't want to be put off by not being able to see all the letters that are on the piece of paper. So that is a real key thing that we found is really useful.
Even without eye pointing, in fact, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It does dampen the colour slightly, but it does stop the reflection. So it swings around about. It's about what your focus is, I suppose. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so some general pointers for supporting eye pointing. Having the letters on the back of the chart, whichever method you go for, is really useful because then you're not having to peer around, and it doesn't break up that flow of interaction. Establishing communication techniques. So like the slide we were talking about earlier with all those mistakes, or showing you how you've got a message to say, it's really important to establish all of those communication techniques that the individual is going to use, and how they want prediction to happen as well, all of those things. One thing with eye pointing that is slightly different though is the technique of doing a searching look and a choosing look. I'm going to show you a little video that shows somebody using a searching look and a choosing look and how they might focus differently. It's important to give feedback to whoever you're working with, especially with children more so, I would say, because they don't always realise that you've not seen where their eyes are looking. So giving feedback to them, say, I wasn't sure where you were looking, can you look again, is really important. I'll just show you the look back at me strategy now.
Where would you like to go on holiday? This block? Pink B. This block? Yellow A. This block? Yellow L, B-A-L. Bali? Oh, lovely.
So you can see very clearly that he's looking around at the letters or the colour that he wants, and then looking back at the communication partner when he's selected or just looked at the one that he wants. Okay, so that he was using encoding in that example, which leads us quite nicely onto, if you just press the arrow again. Yeah. Oh. There's 3 different types of encoding, and encoding is where you partition something into 2 steps. So you look at the block of letters or words, and then you look at either the colour or the shape that relates to that. So on the example, the one on the first example, the one on the right, no, left, sorry, if I was going to say H for hello, then I look at the block where that H is, and then I look at the yellow colour, and then that would symbolise that I'd said H to you. So it's putting 2 things together. Obviously there's quite a cognitive load on this method, which can be a bit difficult for some people, but practice is the way to use any of these methods. So I've just touched upon that chart there. That is the French e-tram style, and that's a purchasable project on a Perspex bit of material. But we have created some paper-based versions that are kind of A4 size that are slightly different, which are in lowercase as well for, as we said earlier, differences. And they are freely available on our website. We've also got on our website some pastel coloured ones, because feedback from clients who mainly had ALS or MND said that they preferred the pastel colour. It's a bit more grown up, as they put it. So you can download those. And then also the Speak book is there. Now, this was created by a client who had motor neuron disease. He's unfortunately passed away now, but he's given us the rights to still allow that free source chart book to be used by anybody that wants to. So you can get it from our website, but Patrick actually created that with his family. And it's a phrase-based book using colour encoding. And if I wanted to say on their cup of tea, I would look at where the word, the lettering cup of tea is, and then look at the blue colour, and that would indicate that. He's put in there, you might notice some capitalised letters, and that means that you're turning a page or jumping to a new page. So if I want to go to my meals page, then I look at the top left block where it says meals, and then I look at the yellow, and then somebody would turn to the meals page and I'd have all my different choices listed on there. So that's a really nice resource. He's also created a symbolised one for those that are colour blind, which is really nice, or maybe they just don't want to use colours. That's really good. Okay, I've got a little video of encoding here for you.
This block, colour, blue, I. This block, colour, green, A. This block, colour, green, M. I am. This block, colour, green, A. This block, colour, blue, O. I am O. This block, colour, N, O-N. This block, no, this block, colour, black, E. No. Okay, where were we? Could we start? So I've got I am O-N. This block, colour, black, E. I am a 1. This block, colour, blue, I. This block, yellow, N, in, 1 in. This block, colour, green, A, 1 in A. This block, colour, green, M, million. I'm getting, I've only just met you and I'm definitely getting that sense. Have you anything else to say? No.
So you can see how our colleague Catherine was looking through the hole in the middle and looking at where the client's eyes were pointing. And they successfully managed a communication breakdown when she didn't quite see where her eyes were pointing. And it's good to establish those methods as well in whichever form you're using your communication chart. I just wanted to show you some abbreviation expansion with the same lady, but using colour encoding.
Block, green, G. This block, blue, I, G-I. This block, pink, P, G-I-P. Get my iPad. Cool.
That was good because she knew what the abbreviation expansion already was, and got her iPad, so that's really good and made it much quicker than having to spell that whole message out. I've got one more video on encoding of using a speak book.
This black, pink, uncomfortable. This black, green, get up. You're uncomfortable and want to get up.
It's a very clear message, and you can see where her eyes are pointing really clearly. Okay, so I'm going to go on to the next method now, which is the iLink. This one has had a lot of research behind it, and Amy and Pals is a really useful website. I've forgotten to put the link on there, but it is at the end of our presentation. But also this website here is where we got the images for this page off of. But Amy Roman, that they had done some research around iLink and had found that individuals using this method said that they found it the quickest to pick up, and they preferred it to encoding, which you've just seen, and to partner-assisted scanning, which Gemma's going to talk about a bit later. It was also found to be the quickest method by about 4 seconds compared to, well, between 1 and 4 seconds for short messages with those other access methods. And the communication partner found this method the quickest as well to pick up and to use. So the way it works is all the individual has to do who is saying their message is look at the letter that they want. So they just keep looking at the letter, and the communication partner moves the board until their eyes meet on a letter, sorry. So it's nice and easy to use in many ways. Got an example of one of our clients using it, and she is very quick. Usually you'd use, in this instance, and normally you'd use an A3 chart, and I find that easier when I'm using this method, but she has created her own A4 chart and is very, very quick at using this.
H, hi, my name is I, Lisa Simpson, A, and T, H, E, there, A, R, 6, P, E, people, do, H, have, C, L, N, confirm, T, H, they, A, R, T, L, N, fine, T, H, the, 2, T, H, the, event, on, and March, the 11th.
Brilliant.
So Lisa uses a lot of prediction there as well. So you can see how a lot of the things that we've already mentioned can be used really successfully alongside whatever method you're using. Okay, and the last one for eye pointing is the vocal becker. So this was once again created by somebody using this method to make their communication easier. So him and his father set this up, and it follows 10 different areas, different eye positions and points, and I will let him actually explain it with his father, because they do a better job than me.
Has 2 eye movements. The first eye movement takes you to the square. The second eye movement takes you to the letter in the square. So Jason's eyes begin each letter from this point. He will look in one of these 6 directions to take me, for example, to this square. He'll look up over here. And if he looks over here, that's the letter A. If he looks down here and back over there, that's the letter O. So each letter, he will do 2 continuous eye movements. It's kind of an eye geometry to take me to the letter. I'll say the letter, then the next letter. When I know the word, I'll say the word. And he can say long sentences with just a handful of letters. So Jason will now demonstrate. Is this board in a good position? Down a little bit? Okay, so we'll have Jason spell a word, and I'll kind of point it out as he goes. So Are you ready? Okay. There is the square. I'm sorry. There's the square. There's the letters. So that is D. There's the square. There's the letter. That is O. There's the square. There's the letter G. You just said D-O-G.
That is dog. I don't know why that cut off there. Sorry. So you can see that that is a lovely, lovely method again of using your eyes. We've put a link there to his website so that you can print it off, and you can also look at that YouTube video. So hopefully you can find that useful with some of your clients.
Okay, now to tell you about another access method that we call partner assisted scanning. So the principle of this is that the communication partner would read aloud or point to options on a chart. That might be reading through the alphabet, A, B, C, D, or it might be reading aloud phrases within a phrase book. When the communication partner is doing this, they should read aloud in a consistent and a predictable way. So I've said using a monotone voice there, so not putting your own inflections into it. All the individual needs to do is to listen, and when they hear the letter or the message that they want to say, is to indicate a yes. What we try to encourage is just to use a yes response rather than saying no to each of the options that you don't want, because if you're having to shake your head or put your thumb down or say no every time, that can be really tiring for the individual using the AAC, and it can just slow things down a little bit as well for both of you. You're having to stop and say, oh, was that a no? If you're just looking for one consistent method of saying yes, that's a lot easier for both of you. So like I said, this method relies on having a reliable yes response, and that can be through using different methods which I've touched upon, such as a nod, it might be a blink, it might be a vocalization or a little movement in the hand. The person doesn't need speech to be able to access this. When using an alternative gesture or response for the yes signal, make sure that that's clearly documented for everybody to see, so that people can use the chart with a range of individuals that they come into contact with. So why might you use partner assisted scanning over eye pointing, as Ruth just talked about? There might be occasions where eye pointing is not accessible. That might be sometimes people's eye pointing is quite hard to read, and if their eye movements are not controlled, they might have visual difficulties. That means seeing a chart or seeing written words is not possible, so having the auditory input that way is much more reliable for them. Somebody that's very tired in bed, for example, might find just lying quietly with their eyes closed, listening to the scan through of messages might be a little bit easier. Also, I find that a lot of people that we meet are using this kind of method informally anyway. It's quite intuitive, so we might be doing it in a questioning approach, but we try and encourage people to have quite a routine, structured way about how you deliver the partner assisted scanning. So making sure that it's really predictable, because of course if there's other distractions going on, it can be quite hard to listen and pay attention all the time. But if you know when you're going to get to the message that they want, you can kind of switch off for a bit and then tune in again. Something to mention as well, and we saw this a little bit in the video with the lady using the eye pointing, the Tran frame. Communication breakdowns are going to happen. That's just part of communication. So make sure that you establish a clear agreement between the two of you about how you're going to start the scan again if you make a mistake, because you will. So that might be, I think we've got a nice example actually in the next video where Catherine, our colleague, demonstrates this. So just make sure that you agree. Either you're going to start the scan again if you make a mistake from the beginning. Yeah, so we'll show you that. I'll show you that now, I think. Oh no, I'm just going to show you this first. Okay, beg your pardon. So this is just to show you some layouts that you might want to choose that are optimized for using partner-assisted scanning. As I said, some people have already started using this, and their communication partner might be reading aloud the whole alphabet, A, B, C, D, really quickly, and the person indicates yes. But obviously that's a lot of work for everybody involved, and it's quite slow. So you might want to group the alphabet up into either 2 sections, 3 sections, or one that we use quite a bit is the A-E-I-O-U layout. And you can either scan that through just auditory, or you might want to use visuals and colours as well, like we've done on that example, and that's one that you can download from our website. So you might read through, is it row 1, row 2, or you might read out the colours, white, yellow, blue. Yes, it's blue. I, J, K, L, L, yeah. So here we are. This is a little video clip to show you partner-assisted scanning in action. This is using a frequency alphabet chart that Ruth explained earlier. So all the high frequency letters are at the beginning of the scan. So that's going to speed you up a little bit. So I'll hand over to Catherine.
You watched anything good on TV recently? What have you seen? Row 1, row 2, row 3, N, S, S. Row 1, row 2, T, O, O. Row 1, row 2, row 3, N, S, O, N. Row 1, row 2, row 3, yeah, N, S, S. Sons, space, yeah. Row 1, row 2, T, O, O. Sorry, I've lost it now. We're on this row, aren't we? Yeah. T, T, O, O. Row 1, row 2, row 3, N, S, S, F. Sons of, I'd guess, but I don't know. Row 1, space, E.
Oh yeah.
E.
There we go. So that's partner-assisted scanning. Oh, before that plays, this one, we're just going to show you the same access method, but using a phrase-based book.
Quick, urgent, I'll spell it, chat, chat. Okay, go to page 4. Chat, how are you? What have you been up to? How's the family? How's the family? Oh, they're really well. Thanks so much for asking. Is there anything else you'd like to say on this page? No? Okay, go back to the top page. Is there anything on this page? Quick, urgent, I'll spell it, chat, care needs, position, people, equipment, feelings, the dog. The dog, okay? Yeah, I've seen her around. Have you fed the dog? Please let the dog out. Please brush the dog. Are her paws clean? I'd like her on my lap. I'd like her on my lap. Sure, I'll just go and get her for you.
And you might have noticed Catherine makes a lovely effort there of using that lovely monotone, neutral voice when she's reading through the options, but then once the individual's made their selection, then becoming more animated and delivering that message, which is great. Okay, so we're just coming up to the end now. We've just got a couple of other access methods that we want to share with you, one of which is something called coded access, and that is another two-step method that you can use to reach your target. It's a little bit like playing Battleships, if you remember that game. So you would choose, say, the row number that your desired letter is in. So to say H for hello, I might indicate the number 2, and then I need to look and check, right, H, that's the colour brown, so now I need to point to the colour brown. So you might use this with direct access, somebody that's got a small range of movement. Obviously it allows them then to access a full scale chart, but you could also adapt it, and that's worth thinking about for the other access methods that we've talked about. Quick video just to show you that in action.
I'm going to tell you what pet I have. First letter. Green 1, C. Second letter. Red 1, A. C, A. Third letter. Gold 4, T. C-A-T. Cat.
There we go. Oh, it's not brown, it's gold. I do apologise. There we go. Okay.
And then the last one that we just wanted to touch upon is a bit alternative, but it's Morse code. And this can be really useful for individuals using any access method, really. So they could eye point or directly touch a dot and a dash, or they could do a long blink or a wink to indicate the dot or the dash. It can be really, really fast. It also doesn't matter what language. So there's lots of positives with it. It was originally set up to be a really quick method of getting messages across through telegrams, internationally and nationally. In America, actually, I believe it was invented. Was it? I can't remember now. So the E is a dot and the T is a dash. So they are two of the most frequently used letters. And then the vowel A and the vowel I, they're only 2 presses. So it's just meant to be a really quick method of getting your message across. Our colleagues, Sam McNeely and Will Wade, are doing a presentation on one of our clients that's using Morse code, which you might be interested in looking into. It's a pre-conference session, and the title of it is Individual Journey of Using Morse Code. Might just be worth looking at if you've not looked into using Morse code before. And to learn Morse code, there is a Google website called www.learnmorsecode.com, and it's absolutely brilliant. I found it really easy to use. They use visuals, so it might just be worth having a little look at that as well if you want to have some fun. Some free resources, and these are just links to some of the videos that we've used today and where you can download or print off the resources yourself. Thank you for watching.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Hope you have a sunny day.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Gemma and Ruth. This has been a fabulous presentation with a lot of information and a lot of opportunities for people to maybe make some adjustments or think outside the box in the ways that they try to communicate. So thank you for sharing your insights and your ideas. We appreciate you being part of the conference. And to all those who are attending, thank you for being here. Feel free to check out some of those resources that Gemma and Ruth have made available. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to the ACE Center or to them as well. Thank you for being here, and we will see you in the next session. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.